Now, in my opinion, I honestly think Hunter's got the good end of the stick when it comes to the Strand subclass. There's a lot of things we can do with this. Obviously, one of the most popular ones is the 6 Coyote, allowing you to suspend everything. But I wanted to take a different approach and use the new exotic that came with the game called the Cyrtarachne's Facade. I believe I said that right. If not, just roast me in the comments already. I mean, the exotic itself, it just looks like you put on like some broken goggles and it has like 70 lenses on it. But we're not here to talk about aesthetics. We're here to talk about the perk. All right, Acrobat's Focus. Gain Woven Mail when activating Grapple. Increase flinch resistance while Woven Mail is active. Now, if you don't know what Woven Mail is, essentially Woven Mail, your body is encased in a protective mesh of tightly woven strand matter, greatly reducing any incoming non-precision damage taken. So essentially, this is more damage resistance. And what's pretty cool is that this actually can be effective on top of tier 10 resilience, 100 resilience. So essentially, anytime we use that grapple, you're getting free damage resistance with this exotic. Now, before I go any further into the build, I just want to warn you, the build I'm about to show you is strictly for PvE content, but I did take this thing into the Crucible and it's honestly kind of interesting. If you're strictly going to be using the Strand subclass, I would consider this an option. Honestly, I don't think it performs better, even at a passive level, when compared to Stompies or Frosties, or even the Dragon Shadow in that matter. I think there are better exotics to use in general, but is this one awful? Absolutely not. Obviously, you get the increased damage resistance from Woven Mail, and all you have to do is use the grapple. Grapple melee in the Crucible is very fun as well, and does a lot of damage, as you well know. Plus, the increased flinch resistance while Woven Mail is active is good, because I think we've all felt it when you're getting shot from the side, or the front, or the back, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. If you're getting shot, sometimes your reticle just goes flying across the screen. It doesn't matter how many unflinching mods you have on your weapons, the stuff is still just flying across the screen, right? So, again, is this exotic viable in the Crucible? Absolutely. Do I think it's the best exotic to use in the Crucible? I don't think so. If you're going to be using grapple and abusing that, I think this definitely is a viable option. But for now, I'm going to be choosing my Dragon Shadow and Stompies over this exotic, unfortunately. Now let's go over some seasonal artifact perks that we're going to take advantage of this season for this build. Now, if you're coming to this build and it's not Season of Defiance anymore, again, it's probably most likely still a viable build. But if there's something cool that comes with the next season, I'm definitely going to be coming back to this build and doing an updated version. But in general, what you're going to want to look for, number one, is authorized mods grenades. Again, any mod that affects your grenades bring that cost down significantly to 1, so definitely pick this up. And then another one I'd recommend is multi-siphon mods. Basically allows siphon mods, 2 of them, to now have Strand and Void combined, and then Strand and Solar combined. So you can take advantage of creating orbs from your Strand weapons in either Void or Solar weapons on top. That's why I'd recommend picking up this one. For me personally, I like Void this season, number one, because, we get authorized mods Void, so any one of those Void mods on our armor bring down the cost to 1, and then also we can take advantage of Volatile Flow. Again, picking up Orb of Power grants your weapons volatile rounds, which again, as we know, volatile rounds can stun anti-barrier champions, which is good. Now, 2 others I'd recommend looking into. First up is Untangler. Now, we do want to focus on using a Strand weapon, just for me personally, I found it extremely effective, and I'll show you why when we get to the weapon options, but destroying a tangle with the Strand weapon suspends targets damaged by the explosion. Suspend is a debuff, obviously, on the Strand subclass that pretty much makes the target just float in the air and do absolutely nothing for a couple of seconds, allowing you to take them out. So again, this can come in handy here. And then the other one I look into is Threaded Blast. It's not necessary, but again, destroying a tangle with the Strand weapon creates a larger and more damaging explosion, so pretty much makes Untangler even more effective. One more thing to look into would potentially be Allied Unraveling. Again, rapid final blows with Strand weapons grant your weapon unraveling rounds with a longer duration near allies, and unraveling rounds is another way to pop anti-barrier champions. So again, depending on how you want to set this up, you could use this, but honestly, I like using my Void weapons in my energy and my heavy slot. Next, let's go over what I'm using under the Thread Runner Strand subclass. So obviously the only super we have right now is Silk Strike. Thing is just so broken. I love it so much. Under our abilities, honestly, you can use whatever dodge you like. I like Gambler's Dodge. When I dodge on your target, I can get my melee back. But honestly, if you wanted to do Marksman Dodge, you totally could. The Marksman Dodge cooldown, again, when you dodge it, reloads your weapons. But the cooldown is faster, just by 9 seconds. But that means you can also take advantage of the aspect here, Ensnaring Slam. You can activate your air move to consume your class ability energy and dive to the ground, suspending all nearby targets on impact. Using this ability extends class ability cooldown time. And I forgot to mention Suspend in general, like I said, debuff for the Strand subclass, but it can also stun unstoppable champions. So that's also something you can take advantage of on this subclass. So again, you can do that if you want. depending on how you play, again, there are options with this build. There's a million ways to build craft, as people know. So again, test stuff out for yourself. I'm not the end-all be-all guy, but this is just what I like. So next up, for the movement ability, I'm just going with triple jump, but use what you like. Only have the one melee, which is threaded spike, which does sever targets, reducing their damage, and if they die, they turn to a tangle, which again is the ball we can throw at targets. Now, obviously for the grenade, we want the grapple. Again, the grappling hook here is very nice. Again, weave grappling hook, quickly pull yourself forward. Grappling to a tangle immediately recharges your grenade energy. During and shortly after grappling, your melee attacks deal area damage and unravel targets. Again, unravel creates a little projectiles, does a little bit of damage over time, creates unraveling rounds, and also they turn to a tangle when they die. So next up, the other aspect we're going to be taking advantage of is Widow's Silk. Again, you have an additional grenade charge. Your grapple creates a grapple tangle at the grapple point. So now we get 2 grapples, and what's pretty cool, at the end of that grapple point, it creates a spot. So if you want to grapple to it, just like with, it says here with grapple, if you grapple to a tangle or something similar to that, again, just like with this, it will automatically recharge that grapple. So again, you can just grapple right onto it, and it'll just immediately be recharged. Now for our fragments. First up, most importantly, Thread of Generation. Again, dealing damage generates grenade energy. It could be any damage, abilities, weapons, whatever. This will give you more grenade energy. Now, it does give you -10 to discipline, so you do have to keep that in mind. Next up, Thread of Transmutation. While you have Woven Mail, weapon final blows create a tangle. It could be any weapon. It doesn't have to be Strand. It doesn't have to be... It could be any weapon. It doesn't matter. As long as you have Woven Mail, you get that free tangle that you can either grapple to, throw, use whatever you'd like. Next one I'm going with is Thread of Ascent. Now, activating your grenade ability reloads your equipped weapon and grants bonus airborne effectiveness in handling for a short duration, +10 mobility. The main thing here is activating your grapple. In this sense, reload your equipped weapon. So if you're using a heavy weapon, for example, you can grapple to your grapple point or a tangle and automatically reload your weapons just like that and continue using them. And you can just continue doing that until you run out of ammo. It's kind of broken, honestly, especially with this build, but I like it a lot. Now for the last fragment slot, we have a couple of options. First up being Thread of Binding. And, you know, this is the one that I personally like using. Again, super final blows emit a suspending burst from the target, +10 to resilience. So whenever you're in a crowd of targets, you do the rope dart whip. If you don't kill the target, they will automatically get suspended, which is pretty nice. Another one to look into is Thread of Fury. Again, damaging targets with the tangle grants melee energy. Considering we can take advantage of a lot of things with the seasonal artifact perks, like I mentioned, you could use Thread of Fury, and you wouldn't need to do Gambler's Dodge to get your melee back. You can get it back pretty fast with that, and you could put on Marksman Dodge for the reload, or the faster time to use Ensnaring Slam, like I mentioned. Another one to look into is, you know, honestly, it's a really solid one, but Thread of Continuity. Suspend, unravel, and sever effects applied to targets have an increased duration. You get a +10 to strength, so again, you get that melee back faster, but again, any of those debuffs that you apply will last longer, so that's always a solid one to use. Next, let's run through the armor mods that I'm using. So for this first one, I'm going to be going over just mods that synergize well together when it comes to getting abilities back and also having bonus damage to weapons. I'm also going to give a couple options here after I go through this. So first up here on the helmet, I'm rocking double Ashes to assets. Again, gain bonus super energy on grenade kills. And then I'm rocking Void/Strand dual siphon. So rapid Void and Strand final blows create Orb of Power. And again, I'm going to be using Void weapons for this. Like I said, if you're going to be using Solar, definitely take advantage of the Solar/Strand dual siphon. But again, this is what I'm using. For our gauntlets here, big one is Firepower. Your grenade final blows create Orbs of Power. So anytime we use that grapple, it is going to create an Orb of Power as long as we get a kill afterwards. And what's pretty cool, if you pair this with heavy-handed, your powered melee final blows create Orbs of Power. If you do the grapple melee and get a kill on a target, it actually spawns 2 Orbs of Power. So again, that's more super energy for you and your teammates. It's just really nice. And then lastly, I'm going with Impact Induction. Causing damage with a melee attack reduces your grenade cooldown. For the chest piece here, honestly, you can use any type of combination of reserve mods and resistance mods. Personally, I'm using Void Reserves because I'm going to be using Void weapons. But like I said, if you're going to be using Solar, Arc, whatever, again, you can substitute that in. Substitute whatever resistance mod you want. I'm just using this setup. Now on my boots here, I'm rocking Void and Strand Weapon Surge. So my Strand and Void weapons gain a small bonus to damage while you have any armor charge. Your armor charge now decays over time. Armor charge is a new way of Charge of Light. If you didn't know, they got rid of elemental wells and a bunch of mods to go to this new basic system so people could understand how this works. But essentially, if you collect an Orb of Power, you gain an armor charge. Baseline, you can have a maximum of 3 armor charges, and if you have any of these blue mods on, they actually put a timer on that charge. So now that charge will last 10 seconds. With 3 armor charges, you will have a total of 30 seconds. So pretty much, if I don't collect an Orb of Power for 30 seconds, I can have bonus damage for my Strand and Void weapons for that long. There is a way to extend it, which I'll talk about here in a minute. And then lastly, I'm using Innervation on the boots. Reduces grenade cooldown each time you pick up an Orb of Power. If you wanted to switch this one out for recuperation, again, replenishes health each time you pick up an Orb of Power, you can totally do so. And lastly, for the class item, I'm rocking Double Bomber here. Again, reduces grenade cooldown when using your class ability. If you did want to replace a bomber with Reaper, you could. Again, after using your class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns an Orb of Power. But honestly, I feel like we're going to be creating enough orbs with the helmet and the gauntlets here. And then lastly, I have Time Dilation. Again, your decaying armor charge has a longer duration. With one Time Dilation, that gives it a plus 5 seconds to it. So basically one armor charge now goes from 10 seconds to 15 seconds. So if we have 3 armor charges, each lasting 15 seconds, that's 45 seconds of bonus weapon damage if I don't pick up an Orb of Power within 45 seconds. Now, if you want to take advantage of Grenade Kickstart, again, when your grenade energy is fully expended, you gain grenade energy. Additionally, your armor charge is consumed when you gain additional grenade energy for each stack. The problem with this is that since there's 2 charges, you can never technically be out of grenade energy. Even if you use them back to back, you're going to be generating energy behind the first one anyway. So we can't really take advantage of the first portion of this mod, but consuming the armor charge is something we can do, and it does stack for multiple copies. So if you want to replace anything on the gauntlets, I'd put 2 grenade kickstart and then 1 firepower. Next, I'd look at the chest piece, and I would at least go with 1 or 2, or if you really wanted to max out, you could go 3 charged up. Again, charge up increases the maximum number of stacks of armor charge you can carry by 1. Like I said, baseline is 3. With 1 charged up, it's 4. With 2, it's 5. With 3, it is 6. And obviously, the more armor charges, the higher that you get. Whenever you use that grenade ability, the more energy you will get back. And again, it does have a diminishing return, so you do have to keep that in mind. So if you just wanted to rock 1 and then rock your reserve mods, you can totally do so. Then lastly, actually not lastly, second to last, for the boots, I'd recommend putting on stacks on stacks. Picking up an Orb of Power grants you 1 additional stack of armor charge. So when we collect the Orb of Power, and instead of getting 1 armor charge, now we gain 2. So we can basically get max armor charges even faster. And then lastly, on the class item, I would replace Time Dilation with Reaper. Again, after using your class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns an Orb of Power. Again, the whole thing with this part with Grenade Kickstart is to be able to create a bunch of Orbs of Power, collect them, use our grapple, and get a lot of grapple energy back. Again, this is something you can do, something you can look into, but personally, I like the first build more, and that's the thing I'm going to be covering. Now, for stats to focus on, honestly, big one here, resilience. We talk about this every video. Try to have tier 10 resilience. 100 resilience gives you a 30% damage reduction in activities, which is great. And then secondly, discipline. Discipline is tied to your grenade stat, and if you have tier 10 discipline, 100 discipline, again, you're going to have the fastest grenade cooldown possible, allowing us to take advantage of that grapple even more. Now, for weapon options, like I said, I'm personally going to be taking advantage of strand weapons and void weapons. So what should you look out for? So specifically for strand weapons, that's kind of like the big thing with this one. Definitely try to find a strand primary weapon. That is my suggestion, and then stick with special and heavy ammo so you can take advantage of void reserves even more. So I have a Rufus's Fury here with Demolitionist and Paracausal Affinity. Demolitionist pretty much giving me grenade energy back on kills, and Paracausal Affinity basically whenever I get final blows with energy types matching this a weapons type, aka strand, it will get bonus damage. So again, that's free damage from this weapon right here. I also have the Adept Raid Sidearm with Paracausal Affinity, Rewind Wounds, yeah, okay. Obviously, there's plenty of other strand weapons as well. We have the Round Robin from Neomuna with Lightfall, Perpetualis from Season of Defiance. Again, this is a craftable auto rifle. Obviously, the Immortal from Trials. Yeah, I can't get this thing out of my head. I actually have one with Hatchling, which is really nice. But for strand weapons, there's plenty of them. I would recommend looking into it so we could take advantage of everything with the armor mods and the seasonal artifact. And lastly, for void weapons, it honestly doesn't matter. As long as you're able to do great DPS, void weapons, I have Retrofit Escapade I can substitute in with 4 times the charm target lock, allowing for really good damage over time on bosses, and crazy reload too on that. Another thing just for void stuff in general, since we're going to have Volatile Flow giving us volatile rounds, you can take advantage of Repulsive Brace. So defeating a void debuff target grants an overshield. So again, that will give us even more survivability on top of Woven Mail and all the other stuff we got going on in the subclass. Now let's get to the important thing, the synergy. How does this all work? So I'm going to try to explain to the best of my ability, but essentially, if you use your grapple, you're getting Woven Mail, and everything else just goes on from there as long as you're getting ability and weapon kills. So let's say we're about to jump into an engagement. What happens? Obviously, we're going to use that grapple, whether it's the grapple and the grapple melee together, whatever. Once we use it, we're going to gain Woven Mail, and we're also going to get increased flinch resistance from Woven Mail. Now, if you decide to use the grapple melee, you can take advantage of firepower and heavy-handed on the gauntlets, creating 2 Orbs of Power right off the bat, which means you get 2 armor charges right off rip, each lasting 15 seconds. So now we automatically have that Strand and Void weapon surge going on. So now our weapons already have bonus damage right off the bat. So that is a great thing that we can take advantage of. Obviously, with Widow Silk, you know, the aspect on the subclass, we're getting 2 grapples, so you can use them back to back, and you can also take advantage of the grapple point that it creates. So if you need to grapple to it to reload a weapon, again, just grapple to a grapple point, automatically refunds your grapple, and now you pretty much got a free grapple, and your weapon got reloaded because of Thread of Ascent. Again, activating your grenade ability reloads equip weapon and grants bonus airborne effectiveness and handling for a short duration. Now, during all of this time, with Thread of Transmutation, while you have Woven Mail, weapon final blows create a tangle, and then also anytime we do damage with Thread of Generation, we're going to be getting that grapple back even faster. So again, a lot of this is taking advantage of the grapple. Now, if you decide to pick up the tangle to throw it, to, you know, grapple onto it to launch yourself, again, you can totally do that. Or if there's a bunch of ads around it, you can shoot it with a Strand weapon, proccing Untangler and Threaded Blast, doing a lot of damage and also suspending those targets in that area. So you can take advantage of that. Again, with Void and Strand Weapon Siphon, anytime we get kills with our weapons, we're creating Orbs of Power on top of that. So we're pretty much not going to run out of armor charges. So we're almost going to have that bonus weapon damage up constantly. So with double Ashes to assets, every time we get a kill with the grapple or associated with the grapple, we're getting more super energy there. Impact induction, anytime I use a melee, it's giving me grenade energy back, whether it's the little dagger that I throw, or if you use the grapple melee, it works with that too. With our Void weapons, Void weapon reserves, we're getting more ammo for those Void weapons just in reserves, which is great. Anytime we're picking up an Orb of Power, Innervation's kicking in, giving us even more grenade energy, which means we get that grapple back even faster. Every time we use our class ability, whether we're using it for ensnaring slam to suspend targets, or dodging near target to get our melee back, or just using the marksman dodge to get the reload on a weapon, double bombers kicking in, giving us even more grenade energy. Essentially, all you have to do is just take advantage of the grapple. Utilize it, whether you're going to utilize it for enemies, getting out of a situation, reloading, whatever you do. As long as you are getting kills with weapons and your abilities, you can have bonus weapon damage, increased damage resistance, and pretty much just great survivability with the Strand subclass. In any event, guys, that is my Cyrtarachne's Facade Strand build. If I butchered this exact name, I'm sorry. I went to public school, so give me a little bit of a break. So if you guys want to test out this build for yourself, I'm going to pin the dim link at the top of the comments, so it's going to be right there at the top for you to copy, so you can use everything that I'm using. Test out for yourself, and let me know what you guys think. Again, I'm always open to suggestions. There's a million ways to build craft in this game now, so if you're like, hey, you could switch out this thing, use this weapon, you know, choose this mod instead of this one, again, I'm totally willing to hear you out. Like I said, plenty of ways to make builds in this game. I just personally found this one of my favorites. But if you guys like what you saw, be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and then turn that bell next to notifications so you don't miss out on another build video here on the channel. If you didn't know, we actually live stream on YouTube and Kick 3 days a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Friday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to, you know, hop in any activities with us, again, we are mainly going to be playing Destiny 2, whether it's raids, dungeons, PvP, whatever. If you want to hop in, all you have to do is hop in the chat and say, hey, can I join? I'll say absolutely. And if you want to be proactive, join my Discord. That's where we're going to be chatting at, whether it's Xbox, PC, PlayStation, whatever. That's across the board now, so we're all good. But again, we do have other topics there, such as other games, PC tech, anime, and more. Lastly, we have a YouTube partner here on the channel, which is just freaking awesome. It's given us, you know, a couple of benefits here on the channel. One of those things being memberships. If you don't know what a membership is, it is essentially like a Twitch subscription. Again, you're going to get access to exclusive emotes, the monthly badges, and other cool things here on the channel. So if you would like more information, all you have to do is press the join button next to subscribe, and that will give you a rundown with all the details you need. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been your boy. We'll catch you in the next one. Choo!